Hi, welcome to the 15 Minutes Podcast with Accasia Hanson from Top Towns Promotions Australia, featuring the best of independent music worldwide. Be sure to subscribe and stay blessed. Hi, welcome to the 15-Minute Podcast with Accasia Hanson. Today we have a member from the group Altamadum. How are you today?
Awesome. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Um, can you start off by introducing yourself, like where you're from, and a little bit about your musical background?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we're based out of Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada.
Okay.
Oh, and all of the members are from Canada. It's myself, Cam Thomas. I'm the lead guitar player. Sam Muka, singer, and he also plays piano, especially on the new album. And James Cole, bass. Brendan Byers, drums. And then we have our producer, Russ Elder, and Thunder Sound Studio, which we're fortunate enough to have once again based out of Thunder Bay, Ontario.
Nice, nice, nice.
Yeah.
Um, and as far as music, like personally, what made you start making music? Like as far as like where you are now, not like the love of music, but yeah, why did you?
We started making music basically because we all four of us are very creative individuals, and we all love music, right? We all grew up on music. Like I grew up on my dad's record collection,
Yeah.
and I always remember as a little boy sitting next to him in the truck and driving around Thunder Bay, right? So we'd be listening to the radio, and that was kind of my introduction to music. And then I met Brendan in high school, the drummer, and he and I hit it off right out of the gate because he and I are both, we both listen to similar styles of music. And the first time we got together, there was just this electricity or the synergy that happened between us, and we couldn't really describe it. So he and I, we started the band, and then like I said, we met James and Sam, and all four of us have very different musical influences, I think, right? Like I said, I grew up on my dad's record collection mostly, and then of course I listen to everything. But I think that's what makes our sound so unique is the fact that we all listen to very different styles of music, and it seeps kind of into our own original sound, I think. So, um, and then our producer, like I mentioned, Russ, he's like the fifth member of the band, essentially. So he not only is an amazing producer, but he also kind of helps us with different ideas and craft the sound that we have today. So he's just as involved as any one of the four of us, right? So, but yeah, we started in Thunder Bay, and I think our main goal was just to bring something to the music scene that was lacking. We wanted to put our stamp on music here locally, but now it's become bigger than that, right? We want to put our stamp on music on the international scale, and really bring something to the table versus just replicating something that's already been done. We want to bring something new. So
Okay, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Um, what accomplishments do you see yourself wanting to achieve in the next 5 to 10 years? But that's a bit broad. But like tomorrow, what do you want? What's your goal, your ultimate goal?
our goal is just to continue doing what we're doing, right? Like
Yeah.
we've been fortunate enough to work with a few different outfits, right? Like Top Talent Promotions being
Yeah.
one of them, and also from the Depths Entertainment, which is our record label from America. So we've been fortunate enough to do a bunch of interviews and conversations such as this one. We love doing this, and just getting the music out there, right? Like we firmly believe in the album that we've created in my blood, and we just want the world to hear it. So we're in the kind of in the midst of doing a big press run, right, with different magazines, radio stations, and just once again having conversations and kind of appealing to a new audience and a broader audience. That's our primary goal, right? Is just we believe so much in what we do, and especially this last album, we're very passionate and proud of it, right? So we want people to hear it, and we want to get that feedback as well. Like we want to hear what people have to say and how people are responding to it. So I
Okay.
think yeah, I think it's just like I said, just getting the music out there. I think that's our primary goal, and also playing more shows because there's a bit of a hold on that during the pandemic here in
Yeah.
Northwestern Ontario. So we have one set up for November 26th, which we're very excited about at a new local club here in Thunder Bay called Atmos. And yeah, we're excited about that. But I think we're going to get in kind of the regular cadence of playing shows again, just to appeal to the live audience, right, as well
Yeah.
as do
Yeah.
all the press. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice, nice. Um, what inspired you? So not so much why did you start music, but what inspired you? Like, was it did you have an idol as far as music wise, or to start doing music?
Yeah, actually, it was my good friend in grade eight. He picked up a guitar, and
Okay.
and he got really good, like really quickly. So I was a little bit jealous, I think. And so I'm like, okay, like this is like I was just amazed by what he could do with this guitar. So he said, you should get a guitar too, right? So now there's that friendly competition, right? So he
Mhm.
was teaching me some stuff, and now I'm starting to pick it up, and he's getting so much better. So there was that competition. So I think he was probably my biggest influence starting out, but then he also introduced me to a lot of the or reintroduced me to a lot of the music that I actually heard when I was younger with my dad.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it was so I just became absolutely obsessed with different guitar players, and Slash from Guns N' Roses was a huge inspiration. I mean, I think a lot of people can kind of hear it in my playing in my solos. But it's he and Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin were kind of two of the kind of idols I really looked up to when I started playing. And of course, that's changed. Like I listened to a bunch of different players, old and new. I think that's very important to kind of keep a pulse on what's going on in music. But I think those two are, like I said, Jimmy Page and Slash were the two kind of primary reasons for me to kind of see it further than just that competitive nature with my friend. I wanted to start taking this seriously now, right? I wanted to start to take, my instrument, my craft seriously. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, can you describe a little bit about the creative process you use to create music? Like, do you just get inspiration out of thin air and then just go and it comes out, or do you have to listen to a beat, or like what's your creative process? Like, if you had to write a track in 2 weeks, what would you do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I'm inspired by everything, honestly. Like I'm
Yeah,
inspired by music, but I'm also inspired by just life and
yeah,
different events that go on. But I think I can speak on behalf of all of us within Ultimatum. We inspire each other. So I think that when we get in our studio and we're all together and we start writing just off of an idea that one of us have, and then by the end of the night, it's this fully furnished piece of music that we get to take home and listen to, right? I think that's amazing, right? There's a real chemistry amongst us, and when we all get into one room, it's just I think naturally we all just inspire each other with like how I still look up to all the other members in the band, right? I still look up to Brendan, and he and I have been together for half of my lifetime. So he still impresses me, right? And I like to think the same likewise for him. So I think that we inspire each other, I think, right? And just we don't stifle each other's ideas either. Like we allow it to grow into whatever it's meant to grow into. Like we
yeah,
don't just jump on it and say that's not going to work. We see it through and see what happens, right? So I
yeah.
think that's another asset of ours.
Nice, nice. Um, you mentioned already the person that inspired you when you were starting off, but is there anyone famous that inspires you?
Yeah, like I said, I now it's I listen to a bunch of different like styles of music, but
Yeah.
um I've been listening to some new wave music, and Johnny Marr from the Smiths, the English band
Okay.
The Smiths. I love his playing. I think he's very underrated. But I listen to a lot of like other artists that aren't even necessarily guitar players. Like I listen to jazz music, and I listen to, you know, I listen to everything, right? So it's not necessarily just other guitar players that inspire me. It's I've been listening to Oscar Peterson, jazz artist, but I listen to a lot of blues players too. And like I said, I've been listening to a lot of kind of new wave music, but I
Hmm.
always go back to my roots, though. I find like I always go
Yeah.
back to the Jimmy Pages and the Slashes, and just because they're such great players, right? Like they're so diverse in their playing, especially Jimmy Page. And I was just listening to Led Zeppelin earlier on the radio, so that's why it's fresh in my head. So, but yeah, it's always
Nice,
changing.
nice, nice. If you could collaborate with anybody, like anybody, who would it be?
Ah, like another band?
Like on a track or on stage, like it can be somebody I guess, but like famous, just to get a
Sure.
bit of like what's your style, like who would you have on stage with you or in a festival with you?
I think this is probably kind of an odd answer, but like Rod Stewart. I think
Yeah,
Rod Stewart would be cool because I like his voice. Like he's got a
yeah,
real to his voice. And I was once again just listening to that on the radio, so it's fresh. But yeah, I don't know. It's or like someone like Johnny Marr, like I said from the Smiths, because he's
yeah,
just such a great guitar player, and he's also relevant. Like he's always stayed relevant and reinvented himself, which I really really respect.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think that like I said, I've been listening to a lot of older and newer styles of music, but it's very eclectic, right? So yeah, I would say either Johnny Marr or Rod Stewart. I don't know where that came from, but that's just what's fresh in my mind. Yeah.
What skills, like if you were to teach somebody that have helped you be able to perform live, like do you like meditate before because of nerves? Like what's your thing before you do a live performance?
I It's funny because I was just having this conversation. I being nervous before a show, I think is very important actually, because there's been a few shows where I wasn't as nervous before, and I didn't really feel it like when I was in the heat of the moment. Like the show, even though it might have been perceived as a good show for someone in the audience, for me, I just couldn't connect. So I know that those nerves, like that fear that happens before a show, I know that's a vital part in the show's success. Because if
Yeah.
I'm nervous, I'm able to harness those nerves and use them for good when I'm on stage, right? And kind of throw it back into the audience and feed off of that
Mhm,
energy of the audience.
mhm.
So I think the biggest piece of advice would be just to, not shy away from the nerves, but actually, or the fear, but embrace it and recognize that it's an important part of the process and the success of that show, right? And it's amazing because I know that I go into a different mindset when I'm on stage or I'm playing live, right? It's almost like you go into this other place. So I think the meditation, to your point, actually, I do meditate
Okay.
regularly, actually. But before a show, I do need that just little bit of alone time where I'm able to just
Mm,
collect my thoughts and understand that, okay, this has to happen. I have to become nervous. I have to go into this different mindset and people around me know that too, right? I'm a little bit different before I go on, like I'm not quite myself before I play a show because I'm focused, right? I'm mentally focused on what I'm about to do, and then at the end of it I'm exhausted, right? So I would say that would be my next suggestion is after a show, like go home and just sleep. Because
decompress.
there's so much. Yeah, you kind of leave it all on the stage, right? Like it's mentally exhausting, but it's also physically and emotionally exhausting, especially if you can really lock into that moment and interacting with the audience and your other bandmates. It's such a rewarding experience, but it's
Yeah,
also incredibly draining, right?
yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, what was your favorite performance in your career?
That's a good question. I don't know if I have a favorite. I know that we've been fortunate enough to play with a lot of the artists that we really look up to, both kind of older and newer, which is we've so grateful for that. But I think that any show that even the last show, for example, that we played, and it wasn't even an ultimatum show, it was actually my bass player, my drummer, and myself. We were doing like a cover show thing. And but the audience was just electric. Like it was like the place was packed, things were being thrown up on stage, like not like puddles or anything, but so it was cool, and they were, everyone's trying to reach out and kind of grab you on the stage, and it was just, it's that feeling of just feeding off of the energy of the audience.
Energy.
So, yeah. So I throw my pick out at the end of a show just because I'm so wound up by
Yeah,
the overall energy in the room, and it's yeah, that's a really cool thing. And then of course I love having conversations with people after the show, right?
yeah.
So and
Meet
interacting
and
with people
greet.
who listen
Yeah.
to our music. Yeah.
Okay, cool. We've come to the end of the show. Do you want to remind people when your next track is dropping and any other news that's up and coming?
Yeah, definitely. So a few weeks ago we released In My Blood.
Oh, you released it. Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, so the album is out. It's a 10-track album. The artwork was done actually by a local artist, Bianca, and it's she worked with us on our last album too. So it's really really cool. It's excellent. She's an excellent artist, and it really suits the theme of the album. Like I said, it's 10 tracks. It's about 40 minutes total. We released three singles from the album earlier this year, but it's very dance infused hard rock where it's very up tempo. So I would love for people to obviously check it out because it's our latest project. It's only been out for maybe a couple weeks,
Yeah.
and
And you're on
we
all
put
major digital platforms?
all digital platforms.
Yeah,
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 yeah, and we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it, right? So
yeah.
it's yeah, we spent a lot of time on it, so we're very very passionate about it. But it can be downloaded or on all platforms,
Nice,
um, through TuneCore and also YouTube and everywhere you can find music, basically. So
nice.
and we feel free to also reach out to us on our Instagram. That seems to be our most active channel. We also have our website altamadum.com, but I think we're the most responsive. I'm the one who actually takes the lead on the Instagram portion, so we love to hear
Okay.
from people all over the globe, right? In terms of how the music makes them feel, or if they just want to say hi, and so that's a good way to get in contact with us.
Nice, nice. Well, thank you very much for sitting and talking with me. It's
Absolutely.
fantastic. Let
My
me stop the
pleasure. Thank you for
recording.
having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome.